We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
This break 100% sure. There it is. There it is. Been having technical difficulties today with this damn setup. Hope you're doing well. It's been a minute since I jumped on. I got a little bit of a summer cold thing going on here. And watching a bunch of stuff this week and it's like just going must talk about this. So this show is my vent, because I don't want to alienate any of my family members any more than I've already alienated with them. So this is my way of just getting all this crap off my chest without being uninvited to family dinner parties. So thank you for listening. Thank you to Willie Bragg. I will be appearing on Willie Bragg's show tomorrow, and really appreciate that dude, and looking forward to a great conversation. As dumb as it might sound, I would much rather talk to someone else. The shows that I've done with Justin, from the Nilsson show, have been some of the better ones, I think, just because I like that kind of intellectual volley, that kind of, I don't know, it's just more fun. It's like a band versus a solo project, right? Like the band is always better than the solo project because there's multiple points of view. There are, different influences from different people, and it's a what's the word? It's kind of a confluence of energy, right? If you think about all the best rock bands, they all have this dynamic where like two people in the band hate each other. Like the Rolling Stones are a good example. Mick and Keith don't like each other. And I'm not saying, by the way, Willie, this part doesn't relate to us, but I'm just saying having the different energies combining is always better, right? It just makes things more interesting, and so I appreciate it. So today, been watching this whole thing unfold with Hunter Biden, and I'm just so embarrassed for Biden voters and the brunch lib cadre, because it's Trump just wrecked their brains. I was trying to say Trump and wrecked at the same time. Trump. I went with the eval. Anyway, Trump wrecked their brains. And it's clear because the type of things, and honestly, I'm glad that the press went hard on Trump. Like the press should go hard on politicians, but not on Biden. It's just a whole different world. And these brunch libs, they make excuses for why it's okay for Biden to be corrupt. And I got into it with this guy today. It was someone had posted some stuff that Hunter Biden had done, and he said something, and these back and forths all of course happen on Twitter because that's where the action is. None of the other social networks allow for any kind of debate or any kind of questioning of narratives. But this guy was saying how it was okay for Hunter to get money from these different countries because Jared Kushner got $2 billion from Saudi Arabia or something like that. And I'm just like, okay, first of all, let's say that's true. I've never seen that reported, so I don't know if that's a legitimate claim or not, but let's say it is. Trump isn't the president right now, dickface. Like, let's focus on who's in power now. Like you guys had plenty. And by the way, they're also prosecuting Trump for all kinds of weird shit now. So he's already getting his. So let's focus on who really deserves scrutiny right now, which is the current power structure, right? Am I missing something here? But just because it's Democrats, we're not. I am missing something. Obviously, I didn't get the brunch memo. So check this out. This is funny for a lot of reasons, but this is Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor, and in order to kind of like shock people out of their zombie ass trance, she's got. This is Matt Walsh tweeting this. MT, who I'm not the hugest fan of, but whatever. He's got the content. MTG literally just pulled out pictures of Hunter Biden having sex with prostitutes on the Congress floor. So by the way, Hunter Biden wasn't having sex with the prostitutes on the Congress floor. She just pulled out the pictures of the sex with the prostitutes while she was on the Congress floor. Because that wording kind of confused me at first. I was like, whoa, he was having sex with prostitutes on the Congress floor. What a baller. I almost wanted to forgive him just on that alone. It was like his own little January 6th, right? Hunter Biden's, maybe that's like the title of his porno, January 6th, the ultimate invasion. Oh, I am so funny. Okay, so anyway, let's watch this real quick. It's wait, we got sound on.
Of Hunter Biden making sex, excuse me, this is my time, making pornography.
Should we be displaying this, Mr. Chairman? Did a lady's times expire?
Suddenly, so I love how like suddenly they're like concerned about decency. Should we be displaying this when they spent 4 years talking about Trump peeing on prostitutes, that a tape that never turned up, and here we have hard evidence, of Hunter with the prostitutes. Maybe he wasn't getting peed on. I haven't really dug into the details, but what's hilarious to me about this is first of all, it's the same old thing with the conservatives are upset about the sex stuff, but they're not. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's the part. And the Democrats are trying to make it about the sex stuff. If Hunter Biden was just banging some prostitutes and doing a little coke, fine. I'm sure most of the people in the congressional chamber are doing the same, especially if they're single. But I mean, even if they're not single, let's be honest. But the reality is the Democrats are using this whole like, oh, it's sex pics to defend Hunter Biden. And this guy even came out today calling it revenge porn. So that's how terrible, that's how bad the obfuscation is that they're calling this stuff here revenge porn. No, dickhead, this is stuff that was on the laptop that you told us all was Russian propaganda. Remember that? Well, now we have hard evidence, and all the stuff that you guys said about Trump getting peed on and all his little prostitute. Of course, it's on brand for Trump to sleep with someone like Stormy Daniels. Like, it's just that's what's so interesting about a candidate like Trump is that you can't really weaponize that stuff against him because everyone already knows it. That's who he is, and he's not. I think that's why he upsets so many people, right, across party lines, because he can openly be in public what they all are too in private. They have to pretend that they're pious and that they're, morally somehow. They still live in old politics world where you have to, no, just be authentic, really. Like, if you're the kind of politician who bangs prostitutes, just be honest about it. Don't try to act like you don't. And I think most people will forgive you, because the reality is how someone conducts their personal life doesn't matter in this. Everyone likes to fuck. Okay. I don't care who you are, male or female. They're okay. Granted, if you want to get, real technical on me, there are some asexual people out there who don't like to fuck. Okay. But in general, that's the one human quality that you can get anyone with, male or female. People like to fuck. And so it's an easy way to find an as you can see. I always use the example of Elliot Spitzer, right? Eliot Spitzer back in the day, and a lot of people might not even remember who this guy was, but he was a New York governor who was about to like take Wall Street to task for all the like weird dippy shit they did in 2008 with the CDLs, or what are the credit swaps? I think that's what it's called. CDLs are driver's license. What the hell am I talking about? Anyway, this cold is getting to me. But Spitzer was one of those guys who, and then they honey trapped him with a cute prostitute, and then next thing you know, he had to resign in shame because he did the sex. He did the sex in a bad way, and the Democrats have it's clear that the Republicans have moved into the Democratic Party because now the Democrats are the same people who were, raking Clinton over the coals in the 90s over the blowjob stuff. I remember my grandmother was a Mormon housewife in the 90s. Okay. Very big influence on my life, if you can't tell. But my grandmother loved Bill Clinton. And I remember so clearly as a kid, just in the peripheral, that stuff going on. And she was mad at them for, taking Bill Clinton to task on that. And so it's like, if you just like Bill Clinton was always like the sweet talker guy who, everyone expected to be a womanizer. So, it was like, okay, he got some head in the Oval Office. Now what? Anyway, I kind of put together this collection of, just different things that I want us to talk about here, because these claims against Hunter Biden are not without merit. And the way that the Democrats are kind of obfuscating, you would think maybe they were, but let me do this again. So, Joseph Ziegler, the IRS whistleblower, money IRS found that was paid to Hunter Biden and associates from 2014 to 2019. So they did these hearings today, and this is this whistleblower, what he said. From Romania, 3.1 million. Maybe that's why Romania is going after your boy Andrew Tate. I don't know. CEFC subsidiary 3 million, Hudson West 3.7 million, Burisma 6.5 million, total foreign income streams 17 million. So all the people that are losing their minds over Trump, being a Russian asset, like here's proof of someone influencing the government that is getting kickbacks for it, and you guys are going to ignore it. Why? Because Trump said something or did something? Like, what is that? That makes absolutely no sense. And it just shows how partisan and stupid people are. People like Kyle Kulinski, for example, who is one of the people playing the revenge porn game. Oh, the Republicans are just getting revenge porn. Revenge for what? Like they dated Hunter Biden? What the hell are you talking about? Revenge porn. So here's some video of Matt Gaetz and Director Ray visibly upset after Matt Gaetz calls him out to his face for protecting the Biden crime family by reading a WhatsApp message from Hunter Biden to a Chinese official. Gaetz, you seem deeply unserious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious, sorry. Are you protecting the Bidens? So anyway, let's watch this real quick. I don't need to read the goddamn script when I got the video right here. All right, here we go.
I'm sitting here with my father. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father. Sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it, Director?
I'm not going to get into commenting on that.
Of course not.
You seem deeply uncurious about it, don't you? Almost suspiciously uncurious. Are you protecting the Bidens?
Absolutely not. The FBI
You won't
not,
answer the
has no interest in
You won't answer the
protecting
question
anyone
about whether or not
politically.
that's a shakedown, and everybody knows why you won't answer it. Because to the millions of people who will see this, they know it is. And your inability to acknowledge that is deeply revealing about you. I'm sitting here with my father.
I don't understand how anyone can see footage like that of Matt Gaetz taking the FBI to task, the corrupt ass FBI, and not like just feel the applause welling up in your soul. Like, even if you think Matt Gaetz is the worst sex criminal of all time and they, sent 300, cute little Asian prostitutes to try and infiltrate him and honeypot him or whatever they did. Whatever they did, they dropped the charges because used to be you'd get into some stuff with liberals and they'd be like, oh, well, Matt Gaetz is accused predator. He's a child predator. He's a sex trafficker. These accusations always come up. It's just like the right wing thing. It's the new way to discredit anything that is inconvenient to power structures. I think maybe I'm just lucky because I worked in marketing, so everything is bullshit to me, right? It's like I can see through marketing very easily. I'm like, this is marketing. The January 6th thing is the best example. When they ran those hearings, they hired a TV producer for those fucking hearings. And I remember seeing the reports coming out and going, what? This is nothing. This lady heard someone say something. This is not a trial. This is a friggin' TV show. It's like a soap opera. And that's exactly what it was. It was a completely imagined, stage managed thing where they invented this narrative about something that didn't happen the way that they said it did. I'm not saying that it didn't happen or that there weren't people that committed crimes, because there were. There's very visible footage of that too. But anyway, I want to wrap this segment up by just showing you the ultimate in the brunch lib mentality right here, because this is just here, look at this. I've never seen a more perfect summation of why I made this account. So this guy's account is called Holding Biden Accountable. And this is a quote from David Sedaris. Here, I'm just going to close this. This is a better view anyway. A few months ago, the humorist David Sedaris, who I honestly have always enjoyed. I've always thought he had some, funny stuff or some interesting points of view. A few months ago, humorist David Sedaris wrote about his joy at feeling he no longer had to care about political news. 4 years of constant monitoring of events, which a friend of his likened to having a second job, had left him exhausted. So the moment that Joe Biden was sworn into the office, I let it all go. It's so freeing. No longer listening to political podcasts, no longer being outraged. And I mean, it just, that completely sums up. That's like the first commandment in the Brunch Lib Bible right there. Like, now that liberals are in charge, it's back to brunch for me. I don't need to pay attention anymore. It's in the hands of capable, well-meaning people who are always going to do the right thing. And that's just, it's amazing to me how quickly the switch flipped when Trump was voted out, whether you believe that or not. But when Trump went out of office, the switch just flipped immediately. It's like people were like, yeah, now I can just pretend that everything's back to normal. And, we didn't just experience a complete establishment stroke for the last 4 years. I don't know if a lot of people know this or remember this at all, but guess what? Under Donald Trump, there was no White House press correspondence dinner. That little party where the press and politicians get together every year and like just fillet each other and jerk each other off? That's called the White House press correspondence dinner. And they all get together and go, ha, 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 aren't we so nice and great? We're just like licking each other's buttholes here in Washington, pretending that we're actually doing work of some kind. We're really just robbing the country blind through, all kinds of different government funding scams, including wars. By the way, this shirt, this is quite a find. I don't know if you know what a band apart is, but if you don't, look it up, because it's good. It's pretty dope. I don't know why I just switched gears to my shirt like that, but I think that means the segment's over. I'm just tired of liberals pretending like Joe Biden is some, example of morality, or that he's even done anything worth applauding. He hasn't. He hasn't done anything worth applauding. I even used to give him credit for the putting Ketanji Jackson on the Supreme Court, and even now I think that's like overrated, because look at what the Supreme Court's doing. It's like too little, too late. So in other news about things liberals are mad about, let's visit my friend Roseanne. So I saw this today, and what I saw was this right here, this GIF of her mic dropping on a horse came up in my feed, and then I kind of followed this thread here, and let's just read what she says. She goes, okay, no, we'll start with her response to this, and then we'll show you. This is like one of those artsy movies where you start at the end and work back to the beginning, like Memento or something like that. Anyway, him talking about small town values is not the same that you and your mind controlled dipshit brain filters it as. All you are doing is showing that you're batshit crazy, and that does no good for anyone. If you don't like the song, don't listen to it. Certainly don't project your insanity onto it. My God, you people are insane. Maybe check yourself into a facility or something. Liberals in my day protected art and made fun of those that said it had satanic messaging. Thank you, Roseanne. Yes. I told someone today in a different conversation, when I think back over the last 20 years, I'm a pretty old man at this point. I mean, I'm not an old man, but I'm definitely not young. Let's put it that way. No, I haven't changed. Nothing about me has changed. The Democrats have gone further and further and further to the right. I just watched a thing, or I actually posted a thing about censorship in the 80s, and the Tipper Gore and Frank Zappa and John Denver and all these people uniting against censorship. And so she's right. We used to laugh at people who did this kind of thing, who tried to attribute secret messaging to these fucking and to be honest, I do the same thing now with coded language, because I know that these people who weaponize this kind of shit do that. They call people vague terms like white nationalist, which sounds racist, but really has no proof of racism behind it. It's just a nice way, like a coded way to call someone a racist without being like, that guy's a racist and having to prove it. So she's not wrong at all. And so anyway, that I'm just kind of indicting myself a little bit for doing that, but I think there's validity to that. Whereas I think what's going on here is one of those things where even if there is validity, you making an issue out of it isn't helping your cause or really doing anything to, people would forget about the song if you hadn't made it into a controversy, So anyway, listen to this. So, maybe check yourself. Liberals in my day protected art and made fun of those that said it had satanic messaging when you play it backwards or shit like that. That's what you guys are now. The epitome of what you used to hate. Go get help, or maybe dicked down and shut the fuck up. Thanks. So there's a couple things there. There's another, someone made a joke about how women who don't get married and have kids to kind of foster around go on these kind of crusades. So that's this lady here, the lady with too much time on her hands, church lady. And here's Jason Aldean. So I don't even like Jason Aldean. I don't even like country music. I think it's the most boring genre. All the song structures are the same. Every friggin' singer in the country world has the same stupid hillbilly accent, whether they're from Australia like Keith Urban or Nashville. I think it's stupid. Okay. And I'm sorry if there's any country fans who watch my stream. I know there's not, but listen, there's country that I like. If you open my playlist, I got Casey Musgraves in there. I got a little Chris Stapleton. I do like and respect music of all kinds. But the point of me saying country is stupid is because I'm not defending to say that I'm not defending Jason Aldean at all. What I'm saying is Roseanne is right about this. Like this, I watched Due Dissonance do a piece on it, and they almost kind of said, and no offense to them because I like them a lot, and maybe we can agree to disagree on this, but they even were kind of like, yeah, it's got a lot of coded. I guess he filmed it in front of a place where there was a lynching. Okay, where in the South wasn't there a lynching? Is there like, can we maybe put signs up that say, hey, a lynching was done here, so we know that the fucking oversensitive police aren't going to arrest us and throw us into jail because we shot a video somewhere? That's the thing. Do you think he knew that there was a lynching there before he filmed this fucking video? Because if you do, that you think that Jason Aldean sat down with his production crew and went, you know what, guys, I think let's really throw these liberals a curveball. Find me a set that has had a lynching in front of it. This is a hill I will die on. I want my video shot in front of a place where a lynching happened. I mean, anywhere in the United States could fit that description in a lot of ways. Like if you go back far enough, I'm sure you could find places in every city that fit that description. And unless you put like some kind of a historical sign up, like this was lynching central, and Jason Aldean saw a sign that said, hey, this is lynching central. It was used to be where they just lynched black people all day long. And then he went, I want to film that there. Okay, that might be offensive. That might be something that you should freak out about. But otherwise, fuck you. Shut the fuck up. You sound like a religious zealot dipshit, just like Roseanne said, like the people you used to hate. You are them now. It's so fucking angering that these people are doing this kind of shit. Like, and let's say there's like a white supremacist on Jason Aldean's production crew who did know that and like did secretly want it, like make sure it got filmed in front of a lynching place or whatever the people are fucking shitting their pants about. Why would you bring attention to it? Let it like who? And also, what is the purpose that serves? Right? Like, do you really think that he's out there like trying to like secretly be like, hey, oh my friends, let's get together and be racists and talk about this song that I filmed in front of a lynching place because I hate black people and that's why I make music, because I hate black people. Do you really think that's what this guy is doing? Because if you do, you need your fucking head examined. Like it's it's fucking silly. Okay. It makes me angry that people take this kind of shit serious on any level. It's just like, let his stupid song go away and fucking just leave it alone. Like why are you giving these people airtime? These ridiculous people, like, small town values. Yeah, there is definitely some people that say shit like that have some racist overtones or coded language going on or whatever. But you guys just make yourselves look ridiculous. So I want to highlight another instance of liberals being ridiculous and overreacting. Guy Fieri meeting Donald Trump at UFC. Now Guy Fieri has to be canceled. Yeah, and Viva Frey, good on you, man. What a miserable human being. Like, it's the dumbest thing to do to just say. And I think honestly, the problem with this too is the wall of propaganda that people have been just assaulted with. Like, people think Trump secretly rigged the election with Putin, that Putin secretly got Trump in to office, and that Putin secretly controls anything bad. There are people like this guy that probably still believe that, despite all of the, and not to shit on this guy, because there's a lot of people, otherwise intelligent people, that do believe that. It's how fucked up. It's where we're at. It's the strength of cult partisan bullshit taking root, And anyway, this is another area where, okay, liberals, this is really a red line for you. And it got me thinking. There was this guy a while back who did a piece about Guy Fieri. And I don't think, like, I didn't know a lot of this stuff that he brings up in this piece. But I wanted to share it, and I don't know if I'm going to get copyright striked for it or blocked. They tend to block my stream whenever they can. But I'm going to share it with you anyway, because this guy covers a lot of stuff that are that Guy Fieri's doing that speak to leftist values. If you're like a real leftist person or a real progressive who supports the working class and stuff. So listen, this is a comedian named Shane Torres in a bit he did on Conan O'Brien. Listen to this.
Please explain to me what the hell Guy Fieri ever did to anyone? Y'all know who I'm talking about, the celebrity chef? People shit on that dude all the time. And as far as I can tell, all he ever did was follow his dreams. Do you understand? People are horrible to a television personality, and he didn't do anything wrong. Here's what he did do, America. He started a company where he hires everybody. He pays more than minimum wage. He gives health benefits before he has to. He has a nonprofit where he gives pretzel making machines to schools so they can fundraise. I know that one sounds like I made it up, but I swear to Christ, it's true. He works with Special Olympics athletes, and if you need a little more sugar with this medicine, he also officiated a gay wedding. Yeah. But because he has flames on his shirt, everybody shits all over this dude like he's a member of Nickelback.
Because he likes Trump.
And by the way, what the hell did Nickelback ever do? They made 40 million bros happy? Yeah, you don't want them walking around pissed off. That's how we ended up in this mess.
He's not wrong.
That should bother all of you. And look, I get it. I don't want to hang out with Guy Fieri either, okay? I know he looks like a Hot Topic manager moonlighting at a Fridays. But he didn't do anything wrong. Well,
Okay, so I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but go look up Shane Torres, great comedian, and he's right. And I didn't know about all that stuff that Guy Fieri did until I saw this comedy bit. So I love comedy like that where, it has a kind of a message. It's funny, but it also kind of educates you. It's three-pronged, right? It's good stuff. And just to keep hammering on this point, I am really tired of liberals being the group of people that is constantly losing their mind and trying to censor everyone. And this is going to be a segue into our next segment, folks. I'm going to try. What I try to do is get everything lined up because this is a one-man show. I'm doing it all by myself. I don't have someone producing for me yet. So a lot of times I'll take a break and like set up some other clips or whatever. And I got like this summer cold happening today. It's like I got to mute my mic so I can sniffle so you guys don't have to listen to it. But just to keep on this theme here of liberals losing their minds. Let's talk about RFK Jr. Okay? Been a lot of serious pearl clutching, like just very aggressive pearl clutching over RFK Jr. lately. Yeah, you seen it? So I do like. I never thought that I would watch The Hill Rising again after they fired Crystal and Sagar, but I gotta say I really like Brianna and Robbie. I really do. I've always liked Brianna because she worked for the Sanders campaign, which is close to my heart, and she's always been, I think, an honest actor. She gets a lot of shit from people, and I don't always agree with her 100%. Sometimes she says stuff I don't think is right, but check this out because I really let's talk about this RFK Jr. clip that everyone was doing aggressive pearl clutching over.
Well, several House Democrats have sent a letter to House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government Chairman Jim Jordan requesting that he disinvite Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from a Thursday hearing on social media censorship. Kennedy, who's an already scheduled...
Okay, already I'm pissed off because what like he can't talk because he offended you guys because you know he hurt my feelings. What he said something that was racist. Everything's fucked.
Witness has faced fierce criticism over his comments on bioweapons research and COVID-19.
In case somehow you missed the controversy, during a dinner, a Q&A that was off the record, according to Kennedy, here's what the 2024 hopeful said in his own words.
Okay, listen to this and let's talk about it.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. Well, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
Okay, so already that's a terribly racist and insane thing to say, right? Okay, so let's take it back just a little bit. I want to hear this again. Let's really examine the guts of what he's saying here, okay? Because people were just clutching the shit out of them pearls over this. Let me tell you. Okay, here we go. Listen.
I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past.
Okay, right there. First statement. I know a lot about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it. Now that right there means he's been doing research and reading papers. Do your own research. I should actually show this, but I'm on Reddit's mailing list, and they literally have a Reddit forum called "Do Your Own Research," and it's in the upper and lowercase format to because it's of course it's dumb to do your own research. Who would do that? Why would you read something? But again, anyway, the guy obviously is studying this subject, so he has some knowledge that maybe the rest of the world might think is kind of out there because they don't read the same research that he's reading because they're not writing a book about this subject.
2.5 years, and you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes.
So he's saying we put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted bioweapons. If he's saying that, he's probably read, there's probably evidence of that. There's probably budgetary evidence of that funding. And I'm sure he's the kind of guy who, is a lawyer who used to sue government agencies as an environmentalist. So he definitely has some kind of experience here. So already these pearl clutching people are like ridiculous, but let's keep going a little bit.
The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately.
Now, he didn't say, I believe. He didn't say COVID-19 is. He said, there's an argument. There is an argument that COVID-19 is ethnically targeted. Let's listen to that again.
Is ethnically targeted. Ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted.
There's an argument. There's an argument. And there's probably some data behind that argument, or he wouldn't have brought it up.
Attacks certain races disproportionately. He didn't
say it only attacks certain races. He said disproportionately.
The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
Now, people will say, you know, well, tons and tons of Chinese people died from it. Well, did they really? Do you know that to be fact? I mean, these same people will turn around and tell you that the Chinese government lies and spreads disinformation and just tell, you know, so, I mean, you know, I'd like to see that. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying I would like to see the data because it, you know, there's probably, like he said, an argument to be made.
Now, Democrats led by Representatives Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Dan Goldman, and Judy Chu argue that
already it makes sense. The most pearl clutchy people, the people who have been Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Dan Goldman, the Levi's heir guy, who called Matt Taibbi a right wing Elon Musk tool. Anyway, let's listen to a little bit of what these guys say.
Kennedy has, quote, repeatedly and recently spread vile and dangerous anti-Semitic and anti-Asian conspiracy theories.
Are you kidding me? Again, how can you take these people seriously? How do you take these people seriously? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Anti-Semitic. Everything is anti-Semitic now. And I got into it with a guy earlier, and I said, because someone had criticized Israel. He's like, oh, wow, what's with all the anti-Semitic? It was Cornel West, actually. And I said, you know, you need to explain to me how criticism of a government is being equated with hating an entire race of people. Because if you can say that if criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic, like racist against, which is racism against Jewish people, then that means criticizing the United States is racist against white people, or your logic is flawed if it's not. So if you're, or, you know, criticism of Africa is racist against black people. Criticism of China is racism against Asian people. Everyone's a racist who criticizes any country now. And it just doesn't line up with reality. It's clear that these claims are being weaponized by unserious actors. So let's listen to a little bit more of this.
That tarnish his credibility as a witness and must not be legitimized with his appearance before the U.S. Congress, nor given the platform of an official committee hearing to spread his baseless and discriminatory views.
Jordan said on Monday that despite disagreeing with Kennedy, he still plans to have him at the Thursday hearing looking at big tech's collusion with out-of-control government agencies to silence speech. Jordan said,
isn't that ironic? They're trying to silence his speech at a hearing about the government trying to silence people's speech?
quote, yeah, I totally disagree with what he said, but he's a Democrat. I disagree with other things he said, too. Jordan went on, but we're having him because of censorship. Okay.
That's an honest argument, too. We're having him because of censorship, even though I don't disagree. Jordan has the moral correction here, or the correct moral, you know, compass here, saying like, I might not agree with him, but I want to protect his right to speak because I'm an American.
It is obviously politically auspicious for Democrats to be able to attempt to prevent RFK Jr. from testifying at this hearing by leveraging this most recent controversy.
Yes.
Whether or not this most recent controversy is being fed by its political utility, in other words, whether or not it's a part of a political creation, or it's being the fans, he said the thing, but whether the fans are being flamed.
I love that. She's making a great point there, that they're pushing this narrative because they're like amping this narrative up. Like even this clip might have been kind of like, some consultants poured over and found this footage and went, oh, here's something we can get them on. and they're pushing it to get him not to talk at this hearing, because now that he's running for president too, a lot of people are paying attention to him. So him at a hearing like this is huge. He's going to come out and do the podcast circuit afterwards. So they've got to get out in front of this and make him look like an insane person. And what's great is a lot of people on the left bought it instantly. Just like, yeah, fuck him. He's an insane person. Did you do any research? Do you know about funding of bioweapons? No, of course not. It's easy to just jump on that train of jackoffs and go, yeah, he's an idiot. And let's be honest. I don't think that he's going to get into the presidency. I really don't. I'm very cynical. After two rounds of Bernie getting screwed, I ain't voting for a Democrat. I ain't donating to a Democrat. The Democrats can lick my ass. So that's my feeling. Cornel West is my guy, especially if he's Green Party. He's a real threat to the Uniparty. That's who I'm backing. But if RFK gets through the ranks, or maybe somehow unites with Trump, or if, gets the Democrats stomp him and he unites with Trump, he could be useful. And he already is useful for this kind of stuff right here that I'm showing you, because he's actually, like I said, and people on the right and the left like him. That's the other thing. He's building a coalition of people, a cross-party coalition, which is great. Like that's what you need. But also I think he's doing a lot to help kind of like unify people. And I think for people to instantly jump on something like that and roll with it, it's so clear what's going on, you guys. Like you're gonna jump on that and go like, oh, he's dummy, or it's just insane. You have no idea. You really think there's no truth to the idea that the government might be developing ethnically targeted bioweapons? If you don't think that's a real possibility, where the fuck have you been for the last 30 years? Have you seen the shit they're doing? Have you read anything at all? No, don't do your own research. Oh my God. Have you everything at the beginning outside of COVID was a conspiracy theory? The lab leak was a conspiracy theory. You're a racist if you believe that. They did ran the same exact playbook they're running with this shit, and people are looking. Oh no, yeah, he's totally anti-Semitic for saying that. What an anti-Semitic! He's insane to suggest that the government, that our beautiful, lovely government, would develop ethnically targeted bioweapons. How dare he? How dare he? He's fucking writing a book on it, you idiots. Oh my God. What? Think, people, think. All right. So moving on. Oh, here's a commercial for you. I'm going to set this up while I'm killing some browsers. So anyway, back, we're going to stick with RFK Jr. here, because I saw another clip of him, and he talked about something that I actually learned about from Jimmy Dore. God bless him. Jimmy Dore has one of the best goddamn shows. I say it every time, but it's right. He does the best news. He's doing actual like critical thinking news, and like I felt him freaking out about Cornel West and Anderson Cooper today, because that's like some Bernie Sanders era shit where it's like, bro, Cornel, my man, do not go into these halls thinking that these people are on your side, because they ain't on your side. Anderson Cooper is not your friend. He's not your brother. He's not, he might have been kind to you in the past, but these guys are out at this point. They're out to paint you as an insane, crazy person, because you are a threat to the corpse that the people that pay them have propped up in the leadership of the country. And that's just how it is. So, RFK was on Dave Rubin's show, and he talked about this thing, like I said, that Jimmy Dore educated me about, called the Trusted News Initiative. And if you've never heard of this, you are about to learn what the Trusted News Initiative is. So let me just go ahead and share this screen with y'all. Let's dive into it.
at the way the media has been treating you? Because you've been out there basically talking to everybody, having open conversations. You're talking to people on the right, you're talking to people on the left, and the media has gone after you in an absolutely crazy way. I want to read one headline to you. It's about your wife, who I adore, and we were sort of in similar circles when I lived in LA, and I love Curb. But this headline that I'm sure you saw from the New York Times: Cheryl Hines, the Curb Your Enthusiasm actress, is beloved in Hollywood. Now she's supporting the presidential campaign of her husband, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is she normalizing his often dangerous ideas? I actually retweeted it and I asked people to come up with some of your dangerous ideas, and nobody seems to really know what they are, but that doesn't stop the New York Times.
Yeah, and all of my conspiracy theories, as it turns out, have come true. They're no longer theories. They're now proven hypotheses. But you know what I do wonder about it. I was thinking about this morning, that because this hailstorm of negative publicity about me really kind of not. It goes beyond like hit pieces to be just this poisonous vitriol. And that it's coming from all the legacy media, from the Atlantic Monthly, from New York Magazine, New Yorker, from the Washington Post, from the New York Times, from Vanity Fair, Daily Beast, Daily Kos, Rolling Stone, and many, many others. And they all kind of use the same talking points, and they also are not accurate. None of them has really written an accurate. And that's one of the reasons it doesn't trouble me, is because it's just inaccuracies.
It should trouble you because people still believe Trump was put in office by Putin, my guy.
Distortions, mischaracterizations. But one of the things that kind of occurred to me is that there's something bigger at play there than just their kind of hatred of me. I feel like I'm kind of on the spear tip of a war between this declining legacy media and the evolving and emerging new media, the podcasters, all of these alternative news sites. And I'm in a litigation right now against an organization called the TNI, the Trusted News Initiative. The Trusted News Initiative was a conspiracy that was initiated by BBC, where they called together all of the legacy news sites, including API, the Associated Press, Reuters, the UPI, the Washington Post, and many, many others. And they married them to the social media sites, to Microsoft, to Google, Facebook, Twitter, and they all made an agreement with each other that they would censor certain kinds of information. For example, any information about COVID that departed from government orthodoxies.
So just to take a little side street here. I personally believe this is what happened, as someone who worked for the Bernie campaign and who experienced this firsthand. This is what I believe happened. There was a lot of censorship, very visible censorship in the build up to 2020. But back in 2016, it was there still. But I remember so clearly, and I'm sure a lot of people remember this, the way that, basically you couldn't, if you criticized mainstream news sources on social media, you would be suspended. And then when Trump won, what happened was the legacy media realized that, hey, Trump was able to, we sat here and called him a racist and, a white supremacist and, focused on all this, the Russian spy, and he still won the election. We have to shut down social media. And that's when all this stuff moved in that we're learning about now, is after 2016, in 2017 is when it all started. When this march towards like the ministry of truth happened, because they went, we cannot allow this to happen again. We cannot allow I mean, we can allow it in other countries, of course, but we cannot allow someone who we don't deem appropriate to get into the White House and change things to a way we don't like. That's what Trump did, like it or not. He awoke that beast. People went, oh, these people, the deep state, whatever, permanent Washington, whatever you want to call them, they awoke to the fact that, holy shit, like, we can't, the media is a kingmaker. Do you know who Howard Dean was? And I said I compared what they're trying to do to RFK to Howard Dean on Twitter. But because of social media, it's harder to Howard Dean someone. It's when you assassinate someone's character. And they did this to Dean. He did this silly scream at an event. This Dean, they call it a Yelp or whatever. It was a silly scream. You know, he was just fired up at a campaign event. He's being like a human being. And they clipped that out because he was a guy at the time who was like trying to work. Now he works for the health insurance industry, but at that time he was actually advocating for, like, you know, real change in the health insurance world. And they smeared him so quick. And you know, look this up. I didn't do the research for today's show, but I said that they're trying to Howard Dean RFK Jr. because he's a visible threat. So anyway, he's talking about the Trusted News Initiative, which is something that, like I said, I learned about from Jimmy Dore. And I think I heard it when it was Robert Malone was on there. So I wanted to show you one of my tweets about why this new march towards this censorship regime and this ability to, you know, kind of shut people down for sharing information is so hated by the press, because you can dig up articles like this. This is an article from CNBC about how the third leading cause of death in the US is medical malpractice. And this is from 2018. So it's not that long ago. This is from basically 5 years ago. And this right here, these two kind of bullet points are really all you need to read. But a recent Johns Hopkins study claims more than 250,000 people in the US die every year from medical errors. Other reports claim the numbers to be as high as 440,000. So I'd like to see the numbers on those post-COVID. Like what are those estimates during 2022, 2021, 2020? You know, I'd like to see the updates on these numbers, wouldn't you? And then the second one, medical errors are the third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer. How insane is that? And that's from CNBC. So there's a link in here. But as you can see, that's just, you know, the media should be harping on that. You know, that should be a real story, especially in the post-COVID world. So I just wanted to show you one other thing, because Twitter seems to be where it's at for silly shit these days. But this was something that D.L. Hughley tweeted out that I thought was hilarious, and maybe we'll even read a little bit of this article while I'm on. But here we go. Twitter is dying. Policing women's bodies is keeping it alive. What? So basically, the only people on Twitter now are anti-abortion activists. I didn't even click into it and read it, but let's see if I can read it. They're trying to. Oh, it's Vox. This is a real treat for you tonight here, right? Let's see. There we go. At this point, oh, okay. Okay. So it's written by this actress, host of the Weeds, Vox's podcast for politics. Okay. At this point, Twitter's death feels imminent. Between expired rate limits, the proliferation of bots, and an app from a rival, billionaire dubbed the Twitter killer It appears the end is nigh, but it's not dead yet. If this microblogging platform is a zombie, it's arguable that policing women's bodies are the cordyceps keeping it moving. Oh my God, this is what you would call liberal drivel. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of there are a lot of conservative people who I disagree with on Twitter, but there's a lot more people who aren't conservative on Twitter. And it's so funny to me that since Elon took over, again, this is another one of those narrative things that he's a terrible person, he's a capitalist, he's evil. 5 minutes ago, this is the guy that made all these brunch libs cars, and he's saving the environment. He's really, to some degree, I mean, you could argue that now reliance on batteries is a whole different animal, and it is. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear that we should try to find something better than, the combustion engine, the tar that comes out of the ground. It's 2023. I think we can do better than that. I retweeted a guy today who made we have the technology to just make a high powered steam engine. Remember steam engines? Anyway, that's a whole other subject. But the reason I wanted to show you that is I just think this is the reason these two stories, the first one about the medical malpractice deaths being something that, it's kind of lost in the memory hole, and without social media where I can go, hey, remember this, but then also the ridiculous, like, fake news bullshit about how Twitter is just a shithole for, pro-life activists or something now. I mean, it sounds like it was written by one of Facebook's PR people, and it probably was. I mean, the opening paragraph says that they have a Twitter killer now. So I think this is another reason that social media is they're looking to censor it, is because you can talk about stories like this one, for example. This is a story about how a $6 billion accounting error from the Pentagon resulted in the Pentagon found it had overestimated the amount of funding for ammunition, missiles, and other. Whoops, we slipped on a rake and accidentally gave 6.2 billion more for weapons. Isn't it funny how they never make those accounting errors when they're like trying to fund like schools or something? Like, whoops, we accidentally fucked up and gave 3 trillion to fund like inner city schools today. Our bad. So the reason I wanted to show you this is the Ukraine is the newest grift, and this is a story that I just love to highlight from the Iraq war, about how the US sent a pallet of your money to Iraq and watched it vanish. And the worst part about this is there's multiple stories like this. This is just one of my favorites because it's got this picture of the guy with the pallets of money. Like, yeah, check me out. I'm here with an AK, got these pallets of money. Special flight. Oh my God. US flew nearly 12 billion in shrink wrapped $100 bills into Iraq, then distributed the cash with no proper control over who was receiving it and how it was being spent. The staggering scale of the biggest transfer of cash in the history of the Federal Reserve has been graphically laid bare by a U.S. congressional committee. And of course, the point of me showing you this is, I don't know if you noticed this yet, but you're being robbed. You're being fucking robbed. Oh, whoops, we accidentally lost $6 billion. Whoops, accounting error, Whoops! We had 12 billion in cash. Why did we have 12 billion in cash on pallets? I don't know. We just accidentally dropped it. It's like, when you lose the thing for your phone, or like your keys. You can't find your keys. Like, whoops! Our bad. 6 trillion. You just Okay. Well, I've been plowing through this stuff, and lucky for you, this last story is a good one. It's an interesting one, and it's maybe one of the. Well, I wanted to say it was like not as political as the other stories that I did today, but it is. It's politics based. It's politics based, right? And I don't know. You can probably hear that I have a cold at this point. I'm just a little bit chesty, and I'm sure that smoking weed doesn't help. You know, I'm pretty positive that that's the case, but we're gonna soldier on here anyway. All right, so last story of the night. This is very interesting stuff. I think one of the things this guy touches on in this clip, one of the things this man touches on in this clip is something I thought a lot about post COVID and post like kind of just being exposed to the reality of how just absolutely corrupt and terrible things have gotten on so many levels. I doubt things I was taught now as a kid. I mean, I seriously doubt a lot of stuff now that I'm like, I don't know now. I don't know if I buy that. Like now, the stuff that I was taught about this part of history or that part of history. Like I really want to do some, and I read People's History of the United States. I've read Howard Zinn. I didn't, who didn't after watching Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting? That was a joke. But point being is, this guy has some really interesting shit to tell you about cults. And I think that when I started watching this, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But then it got really interesting right about at this point. So check this out. Like, let's listen to this real quick. I like to share this with you, because this kind of like messed me up a little bit. All right, listen to this.
It's just like, okay, I mean, it's like just an easy example. If you like rock music, it just basically modern rock and roll basically came from the Haight-Ashbury in the basically mid to late 60s, and then from Laurel Canyon, which was another one of these sort of cultish environments in the mid to late 60s. And there was like specific moments in time in both of these places. And
I spent plenty of time in Laurel Canyon myself, so I do not work for the CIA.
Basically all of the great rock and roll from that era that determined everything that followed basically came out of this. So, do you want that or not?
Right.
If you want it, that's what you get. I'll give you, here's a crazy, there's the other book about Laurel Canyon that's even crazier than Chaos. It's the book called Weird Scenes in the Canyon. Okay, you would love this one. So Laurel Canyon was like the Haight-Ashbury of Los Angeles, right? So Laurel Canyon was like the music scene, the sort of music and drug and hippie scene of Laurel Canyon is actually where the hippie movement started. There was actually a specific group in Laurel Canyon in LA in about 1965. There was a guy named Vito Polyticks, and he had a group called the Freaks, and they were like a non-violent version of the Manson cult, and it was all these young girls, and they basically would go to clubs, and they were the ones to do the beads and the hair and like all the leather and like all the hippie stuff. Like they got that rolling. And so like they were in Laurel Canyon, and then Laurel Canyon, it was like ground zero. There was like this moment where it's like Jim Morrison, The Doors, and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Frank Zappa, and was it John Phillips, and was the Mamas and the Papas, and the Byrds, and the Monkees, and like all of these like
Byrds and the Monkees
of that time basically catalyzed over about a 2-year period in Laurel Canyon. The conspiracy theory in this book basically is that the whole thing was an op, and
listen to this. This is crazy.
It was a military intelligence op, and the evidence for the theory is that there was an Air Force military propaganda production facility at the head of Laurel Canyon called Lookout Mountain, which today Jared Leto owns and actually lives
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, but it was in that era in the 50s through the 70s, it was a vertically integrated military. Yes, it was a production facility for film and music.
But by the way, have you met Jared Leto?
I briefly, yeah.
This is so interesting too.
the most interesting guys I've ever talked
Incredible,
to.
and it makes total sense.
Totally normal, like really fun to talk to. Not like what you would think of as a famous actor at all. I had dinner with him and drinks.
What the hell's Joe Rogan having dinner and drinks with Jared Leto for? What are you guys planning? How come Jared Leto should be on Joe Rogan's podcast? That would be interesting.
Fucking great guy.
But he lives in a military.
He showed me all the pictures. He showed me. I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah, so
it's amazing.
If you believe the moon landing was faked, this is where they faked it. Like this is.
I thought they're supposed to do it in the Nevada desert.
No, these are the sound because they had sound stages. They had totally contained sound stages. They had full sound production capability. And so the theory goes basically there were three parts to the conspiracy theory. So one is they had the production facility right there, right where all these musicians showed up. Two is the musicians, like a very large percentage of these young musicians, were sons and daughters of senior U.S. military and intelligence officials,
including Morrison,
including Jim Morrison, whose father was the head of naval operations for the Vietnam War at the time. And there were these other.
How crazy is that? I had no idea.
I forget which ones, but there were these other musicians at the time where their parents were like senior in like military, like psychological operations, and like that's all real, like that's all documented. And then third is the head of the Rand Corporation, who was one of the inspirations for the Dr. Strangelove character in the movie. So he was the guy doing all the nuclear planning for nuclear war. He lived right in the heart of the hippies in Laurel Canyon.
Whoa.
in this famous house that's still there. And so the theory basically goes that the anti-war movement before the hippies was basically a square movement. It was all these basically young people, very clean cut. The men were all wearing, if you look at old like Vietnam War protests, like everybody's all like dressed up like they're going to a business meeting. It was like, and it was developing into a real threat. And so the theory is the hippie movement and rock and roll and the drug culture of the 60s was developed in order to basically sabotage the anti-war movement.
Wow.
Right. And which basically is what happened, right? Because then what happened is the anti-war movement became associated with the hippies, and that caused Americans to decide what side they were on, and then that led to Nixon being elected twice.
Which was also a part of chaos, because that was the idea behind the Manson family and funneling acid to them.
So I feel like we've come full circle here, and that kind of goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning with this whole lack of consistency in the Democrats defending their guy doing stuff that they would otherwise be freaking out about, and also just becoming right-wing and pro-war. And now it's suddenly, because Trump was against war, it's like what he described just now with the hippies, how they used hippies to discredit opposition to the war. That's being done today with right-wing, right? Like right-wing or like white supremacist is like the new way to like discredit any criticism of the power structure. And you see it with like people like Ice Cube, for example. This woman that Jimmy had on his show the other day, who's part of the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, who's trying to fight like COVID mandates, is a black woman, and she was talking about she alluded to being associated with a white supremacist movement, or being like called white supremacist. She's a black woman. Anyway, let's listen to a little bit more of this before we close out here.
The facility was equipped with a soundstage, screening rooms, film storage vaults, and naturally a bomb shelter. During its 22 years of operation, Lookout Mountain Laboratory produced approximately 6,500 classified films for the Department of Defense and the Atomic Energy Commission, documenting nuclear test series such as Operation Greenhouse, Operation Teapot, and Operation Buster Jangle.
So one of the conspiracy theories. Okay, here's another conspiracy theory. You've seen all the grainy footage of nuclear test blasts that you've
sure.
The mushroom clouds, and there are always these grainy things, and there's all these like little houses lined up and these little trees lined up, and it blows everything down. Well, there's always been a conspiracy theory that those were all basically fabricated at this facility, that those bombs actually were never detonated, and that basically the U.S. military was basically faking these bomb tests to freak out the Russians, to make us think that we had weapons. We had basically a potency to our nuclear weapon arsenal that we actually didn't have at the time.
How did they fake it?
They just did. Yeah, exactly.
So this is
exactly.
it?
Well, so there's okay, so here's a question, right? So what happened? Okay, so this is great. Okay, you'll love this. So what happened to the camera?
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. What
How,
happened
how
to
is
the
that
camera?
happening yet the camera is like totally stable and fine?
Oh my god.
And by the way, and the film is fine. The radiation didn't cause any damage to the film.
Oh my god.
This looks like how you shoot
And that,
a
well,
movie
and by the way,
miniature,
okay, we'll do
like,
this one. We'll do the loop one more time here. Let's see the car.
The
Where's
car's
the car?
right behind the house. It just showed up.
Oh,
Okay,
it just showed up.
So wait a minute. First of all,
wasn't there.
First of all, where'd the car
No
come
car.
from?
Yeah.
No car.
Second is, does it really look like
Car.
does that look like a real car?
That's insane.
And look at the and look at when the house blows. Look at the wood. Does that look like those are full size giant lumber beams as they go flying? Yeah.
That's hard to say.
Is that a house or is that is that a 12-inch scale model?
What?
Right. So
the fucking car.
Anyway, I don't know. I have no idea. Having said that, if that was fake, it was faked at Lookout Mountain.
Wow.
Right, at the exact same place and time.
But did they have the kind of special effects to do something like that in the 40s?
Well, so the full conspiracy theory is it was Stanley Kubrick, which again I have no idea.
Boy, that does look fake.
There's also the camera didn't move at all either.
You know what it looks like? Go back to that real quick. It looks like the smoke is too big. Watch when it hits.
So a few years ago, I have a friend who's a big film geek. And I'm not a super big film geek, but I'm all turned around. A few years ago, a film geek friend of mine showed me this movie. I think it's called Room 223 or something like that, but it's about Kubrick and all these hidden symbols in his films. And according to this documentary, or this is kind of I don't know if it was a documentary, it was an interesting movie, but it was about how subversive Kubrick was. And supposedly the movie The Shining is about what white people did to the American Indians, how white people brutalized the American Indians when they came to the United States. And this movie, it's really good, actually. In fact, I kind of want to watch it again now. But it points out the symbolisms in The Shining, and it has it's a pretty well constructed conspiracy theory. I don't even know if you call it a conspiracy theory. It's really just a theory about the art itself, right? But what he said about Kubrick doing these nuclear films, at the end of that movie, they start talking about how Kubrick, because of the movie 2001: Space Odyssey, the CIA used him to fake the moon landing. And I was just that's when the movie kind of lost me. I was like, oh, come on, you guys and your fake moon landing shit. But at this point in time, show me some credible evidence, I'm not, nothing's out of the question at this point. Who knows, who knows? Maybe it was fake. Maybe like he said, with this Lookout Mountain stuff, they did this stuff to scare the Russians. I could see if we're good at anything, it's making movies, the United States we invented movies, it's we're the media. We control the media. United States controls the media. With the internet, just think about it, it's our pipes, bro. Not really, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like the internet, the inception, the mass connectivity that we have today with cell phone technology and the internet was all enabled in Silicon Valley, right here in California, folks. And what these people are talking about at Lookout Mountain is just right, a few miles to the east of me, right? So anyway, I have this summer cold, and it's to the point where my nose is it's that really runny, drippy thing where I feel I have to sniffle all the time, or it's drip, it's, how the hell am I getting colds? It's the hottest it's ever been. It's literally it was out here in California. It's been pretty cool. It all through June, we had June gloom. It was overcast all through June. It was I was oh, nice. I don't have to run my air conditioner all the time. But it's gotten real hot lately, and I'm getting a frigging cold. What is this? This is so weird. I just woke up with a sore throat and this cold thing all of a sudden. guess I need to get my 17th COVID booster or something, right? So anyway, a lot of interesting stuff going down, and I had to jump on again tonight and vent about it. So thanks for listening if you are. And I am real backed up on editing. I have some other projects I've been working a lot on, and I have not cut up my last few long form, live streams yet into segments. I did a couple small ones, but I got a lot of content to put up. So be on the lookout for that too. And don't forget, tomorrow I'm going to be on live with Willie Bragg. That's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said before at the outset here, I like the energy of like kind of being able to interact with other people on these. And I think it's a lot more interesting when there's another, a couple of different intellects involved in an exchange of ideas and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, thank you again for listening. I got mad love for y'all. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Take care of your health. Eat nutrition. Eat well. Eat fruits and vegetables. Drink water. Be well, my peoples. I got love for y'all, and we'll talk soon.